For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God. Hello, this is Kenny Underwood coming to you from 1 Minute Sermon. You know, that scripture reminds me of a story about a man who lived a life of piety, and he passed on, met St. Peter at the Golden Gates, and he said, "What must I do to get in?" And St. Peter said, "Okay, let's take a look at your life." He said, "All you have to do is accumulate 100 points and you're in." The man said, "Okay, what do we need to do?" And St. Peter said, "Okay, well, tell me about your life. Did you go to church?" And the man went, "I went to church my entire life. Served on every committee you can imagine. In fact, I headed up most of the committees. I was a deacon. I got all of these awards for being there every Sunday for 30 years. And St. Peter said, "Oh, that's great." He said, "Okay, you get a point." And the man went, "A point?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, let's move on." He said, "Did you help the widows and the poor and the destitute?" And he went, "I did." He said, "I headed all these committees up where we took food and clothing and helped the poor and helped the widows of the world." And St. Peter said, "That's wonderful." He said, "That's another point." And he went, "Wow, I've only got 2 points." And he said, "Let's move on." He said, "Did you tithe?" And he said, "Oh, I tithed my entire life." He said, "Yeah, I gave 10% of everything I had. And in fact, many times I gave more than 10%. And St. Peter said, "That's wonderful." He said, "That's a half a point." And he said, the man said, "Well, that's 2.5 points and I have to get 100? And St. Peter went, "Yeah." And he said, and he realized at that moment that nothing he had done was going to earn him into heaven. And he dropped to his knees and he said, "Jesus, help me." And St. Peter looked at him and said, "Come on in." That scripture is what that is about. For grace are we saved. It's nothing that we do. We can't earn our way into heaven. It's only by the grace of Christ and what he did on the cross that gives us access to heaven. And as we learn more about Christ and grow closer to him, we want to do these things that St. Peter was asking him about. We want to serve in our churches and we want to help the poor and the widows. And we want to do things for Christ because he lives within us at that point. So there you go. There's your 1 minute sermon. Check it out.